Hey guys, Angelo Lambropoulos, Director of Lambros Realty, and you're watching the 26th episode of FAQu, Frequently Asked Questions in which we answer for you as the consumer. So today I'm going to talk to you about basically a prediction on what I think is going to happen in 2017, this coming spring. It's a question a lot of you are asking me out there, and I thought I'd share it amongst our viewers. So, people think that naturally things are quieter over winter and typically so this winter, but on the flip side, generally when supply is low, demand's generally high. So irrespective of the season, property markets still perform, yet it's something we're not seeing at the moment. And for those of you thinking, I'll wait till spring because spring's the time to sell, I just want to address some elements here and some of you may be aware of these changes via the government, some of you may not, and then you can sort of ascertain what you think is going to happen, and obviously I'll give my verdict. So let's look at a couple of the measures here that have been put into place and their bearings and what they'll how they'll play a part this spring. One of the big announcements was this most recent federal budget, and that was a restriction on claiming plant and equipment depreciation for new investors on positive cash flow properties through negative gearing. So what this means is if you're an existing investor, this won't apply to you. You can still claim your, still use negative gearing to your advantage and claim on your plant and equipment depreciation. But as a new investor looking to buy in and take advantage of negative gearing, that's not going to work in your best interest. So this is a big component. For those of you that don't know, this is a big component for tax deductions via the Australian Taxation Office. So, this is sort of putting tighter measures on investors. Another thing we need to look at as well is another policy. So the APRA, which is the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, they're putting pressure on banks to restrict lending to property investors. And most banks are not writing loans for interest only anymore. So there's a big crackdown on that as well on the investors. So this is something we've also got to take into consideration. Another thing as well, there's a lot of debate on foreign investment and how large is the impact, and how the Chinese buying in Sydney and Melbourne, is it really as dominant as people have been saying? So let's look at the facts, okay? So if we were to look at according to the Foreign Investment Board annual report for 2015-2016, 76% of foreign purchases bought in New South Wales and Victoria. So that's a significantly large portion of our Australian property market. Okay, 76%. So there's the facts there for any of you that had any question marks on that. Now, the reason I guess we've seen this winter slow down, and personally I think we'll continue to see it this spring, being one of the big factors there in amongst the other two, the factors imposed on the investors there, is what we're starting to see is that the Chinese investors are slowly starting to fizzle out. Now, the other things that come into play here is the Chinese government has obviously set up policies for banks to limit and block overseas transactions. Obviously, they want to keep their money within their own economy. The New South Wales state government as well has also increased foreign investor stamp duty from 4 to 8%, and the annual land tax surcharge has gone from 0.75%, which is now 2%. The other policy we've got to look at there as well, Australian banks have stopped lending to foreign property buyers. Now, this being said, this has resulted in a 43% drop in demand from Chinese investors looking to buy off the planned property. So as you can see, there's some massive numbers, and this has had a massive impact on our property market. The other thing as well is, look, it's evident that the Australian government is clearly trying to improve affordability. It's been something that's been an uproar in the media for quite some time. And look, it was only a matter of time till they were going to pull sufficient levers to steady the boat, if you will. So I guess what we'll find this spring is the recent implementation of strict government policies and the crackdown on lending is going to ease affordability. I think what we'll find over the course of spring is, I'm not saying we're going to crash. I think it's going to be more a correction. Those of you thinking that, well, I should get this price because I believe the market's still booming, it's certainly not the case anymore. I think in the short term, definitely the ship is steady. The other underlying factor we've got to look at, and it's not all doom and gloom, at Sydney in particular, we're 90,000 people on average. We're a growing population. There's 90,000 on average moving into Sydney, which is 1.7% per annum, which is a significant amount of growth, and most of which are high income earners. So what you'll find is over the long term, short term, I think there's been somewhat of a hit to steady the boat. But in the long term, I think you'll find that the property market will start to power on again. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that the market continues to fire on all cylinders. I'm all for that. But I just think there's too many policies, too many measures in place to restrict that from happening, basically to cool the Sydney property market. And again, evident in the sense that, with the concessions granted to first home buyers, anything under $800,000 is a big sign showing that they're really trying to help first home buyers that are struggling with affordability to get into the property market. So you can clearly see it's geared towards that. You'll notice inspection numbers probably aren't as high as they have been of recent times. Now, as for my prediction, I think it's going to be steady. I think supply will certainly outweigh demand this spring. And I think you've sort of got to be realistic with your sale price in order to move on. And the thing you've got to remember here, people, that the markets are relative, right? So whilst you might not sell for the price you were dreamed of, you're going to buy for a good price. And the markets are relative, so you're transacting in relative markets. So the key is to remember your changeover price. Now, that's my prediction. You asked for it. That's what I think. I'm not a prophet. I don't have a crystal ball, but let's see how this plays out. And I hope that helps some of you. And I guess the idea was sort of to help point you to some of these policies that you perhaps weren't aware of, and what impacts they have on a property market, to give you an idea, and you can sort of see for yourself if such is true, and can help you research and point you in the right areas. So again, my name's Angelo Lambropoulos, Director of Lambros Realty. If you want to speak to me further about this, you can call me at the office, being 0294810999. You can simply email me on info@lambrosrealty.com.au, or you can visit me at our shop premises here at Apple Tree Shops, CHERRYBROOK. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you took something from this, and we'll see how it pans out. Thanks for watching.